concerned individuals on the south side and southern suburbs of this fine city. We're dedicated to the radical proposition that people ought to have decent and affordable housing, access to healthy, nutritious foods in all neighborhoods, a clean environment so our children will be able to breathe the air and drink the water, public transit that allows us to get to job opportunities, and good jobs that pay a living wage so people who work full-time don't continue to live in poverty.
And yet so much remains to be done to fulfill Dr. King's dream. Earlier I quoted that Dr. King looked forward to a world in which men would not take necessities from the many to give luxuries to the few. But in the last 2 years, after crashing our total economy, after receiving trillions of dollars in bailout money from us, the taxpayers, the banks continue to foreclose on literally millions of our homes. I want to be clear, 1 in 3 of Chicago area homeowners now owe more on their homes than their homes are worth. But the banks refuse to modify our loans. Meanwhile, unemployment is staggering. Today we're at 9.4% nationally. But that number rises to 16% when you look at the African American community. That 16% does not even include the million more who are working part-time and have low-wage jobs. All of this unemployment and underemployment, foreclosures and homelessness, which was caused by the banks that are now, by the way, seeing record profits and paying out record bonuses to their CEOs and executives. I want you to know that the excesses of the banks are only a small piece of the larger picture of corporate greed. For 30 years, corporations have been moving their factories to wherever they could pay the lowest wage. Anybody know what I'm talking about? For 30 years of trickle-down economics and rewarding greed has led to the devastation of our communities on the south side and the south suburbs. And now in today's economic crisis, we're being forced to lay off teachers, and to cut social services to people who need them more than ever. Have we fulfilled Dr. King's dream of a world where men would not take necessities from the many and give luxuries to the few? No, we haven't, but guess what? I think we can. How many of you are willing to do your part by a show of hands? I'm told that there's an election coming up. And I tell you, we could change the election if we register to vote and vote our conscience, and you know what? I think we can. You and I, we can change our wards today. And you know what? I think we can. I wish I had a church that knew how to follow the preacher. We need to change our city and state, and you know what? We need to change our nation, and you know what? We need to replace outdated, antiquated sewers in Riverdale. And you know what? We need to change the way transportation works in the city. And you know what? We need to transform education. No more closing schools. And you know what? We need to force our banks to deal differently with homeowners on the issue of foreclosure. And you know what? We need to have our state release more green jobs money. And you know what? I don't believe you. You know what? I don't believe you. You know what? Give the Lord a hand praise up in the
So I want to ask our legislators to make commitments on both of those strategies to get people to jobs and create more jobs in our community. So I'm going to ask you two things. Number one, will you co-sponsor legislation requiring CTA, Metra, PACE, and RTA to enable riders to transfer between buses, trains, and operated by different agencies? And two, will you work to ensure that the Urban Weatherization Initiative is funded with at least $200 million in 2011? So when I call your name, please answer yes, yes. Representative Will Burns? Yes. Yes. Representative Barbara Flynn Curry?
Yes, and yes.
Representative Will Davis?
Yes. Yes.
And Senator Kwame Raoul?
Yes, yes.
All right.
I'm Sylvia Joe Oakley, 73 years old.
Amen.
I'm a lay leader of Ingleside Brookfield United Methodist Church, and I conduct HIV/AIDS community outreach ministries with other churches and clergy leaders. I bought my home on Langley Avenue in Chatham when I was a single parent in 1969 to provide a stable environment for my two children. Now, I'm in foreclosure. Honoring the legacy of Dr. King is very important to me due to the fact that the civil rights movement and the historic March on Washington had a strong impact on my life. Well, in 2002, I refinanced my mortgage, and I learned in 2010 that it was a predatory loan. The mortgage was sold to the lower loan services of Lehman Brothers, whose executives increased their riches while crashing the economy. Well, my last full-time job ended in 2007. Payments fell behind in 2008. And in 2009, I applied for President Obama's modification program, which proved to be a long, drawn-out, confusing process that ended in foreclosure. I just want to continue living in my home. Yeah. But banks are more interested in keeping their big bonuses than keeping people in their homes. Yeah. So rather than allowing myself to become a victim, I'm fighting back. All right. Yeah. The banks got bailed out. Nobody's going to bail me out unless we organize. Yeah.
Alderman Dow, I'd like to thank you personally for introducing this ordinance to the City Council in July. Yes. Bring this ordinance for full vote by the full City Council in the next 60 to 90 days? Please answer yes or no. Yes. Yes. Now I'm going to ask the other aldermen as well. Will you commit to voting for this ordinance? When I call your name, please answer yes or no. Alderman Willie Cochran?
Yes.
Alderman Leslie Harrison?
Yes.
Alderman Michelle Harris?
That progress never rolls in on the wings of inevitability. It comes through the tireless efforts and the persistent work of dedicated individuals who are willing to be co-workers with God. I invite and challenge you to help us create the revolution of values our country needs desperately, to become one of those dedicated individuals persistently working with us to fulfill Dr. King's dream and our own dreams of justice and sustainability in our communities. God bless you.